the scapegoat and the Great Day of Atonement. Leviticus 16:1-34. Only the high priest could enter the inner room of the tabernacle, called the Holy of Holies, where the Ark of the Covenant was, and where God's presence was. And even the high priest could go into this room only one day a year. In the Hebrew language this day was called Yom Kippur, which means the Great Day of Atonement. The special service held on Yom Kippur was to show the people that all are sinners, and that they must seek God in the way He has provided to have their sins taken away. God teaches us these things by His book, the Bible, but in those times there was no Bible, and very few could read, so God taught His people by acts which they could see. In preparation for the service on the Day of Atonement, everybody was required to fast from sunset on the day before until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the hour when the offering was placed on the altar. It is interesting to note that Jesus died on the cross at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. No person could eat anything during this time. Even children, except nursing babies, were not allowed to have any food. They were to show a sorrow for their sin and were to appear before God seeking mercy. Early in the morning of that day the high priest offered on the altar before the tabernacle what was called a sin offering for himself and his family. It was a young ox, burned upon the altar. He took some of the blood of this ox, and carried it through the holy place, lifted the veil, entered into the Holy of Holies, and sprinkled the blood on the golden lid to the Ark of the Covenant before the Lord. This was to show the priest himself was a sinner, seeking mercy and forgiveness from God. The priest must first himself have his own sins forgiven, before asking forgiveness for others. Then the priest came again to the great altar before the tabernacle. Here 2 goats were brought to him. Lots were cast, and on the forehead of one goat was written, "For the Lord," and on the other, "To be sent away." These 2 goats were looked upon as bearing the sins of the people. One was killed, and burned on the altar, and the priest, with some of the blood of the slain goat, again entered the Holy of Holies, and sprinkled the blood on the Ark of the Covenant, as before, thus asking God to receive the blood and the offering, and to forgive the sins of the people. Then the high priest came out of the tabernacle again, and laid his hands on the head of the living goat, the one whose forehead was marked to be sent away, as if to place upon him the sin of all the people. Then this goat, which was called the scapegoat, was led away into the wilderness, to some desolate place from which he would never find his way back to the camp, and there he was left, to wander as he chose. This was to show the sins of the people were taken away, never to come back to them. When this service was over, the people were looked upon as having their sins forgiven and forgotten by the Lord. Then the regular afternoon offering was given on the altar, and after that the people could go home happy and end their long fast with all the food that they wished to eat. In all this God tried to help the people see that their sin is terrible. It separates from God, it brings death, and it must be taken away by blood. Many centuries before Jesus came to take away our sins by his death, God was already pointing the way to men, showing them the need for a sacrifice to bring forgiveness and peace for their sins.
Please like, share, or subscribe to our channel. Thank you, and may God bless you.